All right, let's go. Ready, set. Oh, wait, we already live, right?
Double
um,
live.
yeah, that was terrible, wasn't it? Start again. All right, we're back, guys. Episode I don't know of the fitness podcast, and we're obviously joined again with Emily and Nathan. Nathan's in Dubai. Second episode in Dubai now. Skin is glowing, got a little tan, looking all red, and looking jacked and swole. Must be the Dubai gyms, eh?
Yeah.
But basically, we're going to do part two on reverse dieting. We spoke about it last week, and we wanted to kind of go through, reverse dieting is such a big subject in itself. I don't think one episode is justifiable, in my opinion. So we're going to go into it, reverse dieting, a bit about that. And then on top of that, we're also going to discuss how do you stay in shape forever? This is the biggest question right now in the fitness industry. Everyone's done a diet in the past, but they don't know how to stay in shape. So Nathan, let's take it away, and then Emily as well. Reverse dieting part two, the do's and the don'ts. Let's go for it.
Okay. So first, I think the biggest thing out of all of it is like eat like a dickhead, get like a dickhead. So I think for the most part, it's really, really comforting to go head onto a diet knowing that, okay, I might go back to the stuff I've been doing before after I finish this diet. So for the most part, a lot of successful reverse diets are the people that don't think that they're going to go back to those old behaviors to the most part. Like if you were a 10 pints Billy on a Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and you were 110 kilos, you want to be a 60 kilo or 50, 70 kilo Billy, you're not going to be sinking 10 pints Friday, Saturday and Sunday unless you're wanting to starve from Monday to Thursday. So you're not going to be able to.
Why Billy? Like, out of all the names you chose, why Billy?
Well, I've transcended. Like, it would have been Shilpa, but my market's changing. So
it's a white boy from Liverpool now, isn't it?
yeah. But I'm after the Arabs now in Dubai. So it's the Walids. The Walids.
It's a really good name, actually. I quite like that. The Walid.
Yeah. So effectively, it's going to be the first port of call is making sure that you understand you're not going back to where you were before, because that got you to where you were before. And if you're 100 kilos plus or 80 kilos or just unhappy and not in the shape that you want to be in, then you can't be in that shape long term. Like, that's not what happens. So finding the common ground somewhere between the new you and the new system that you want, but also the old stuff that you liked. Like, if you like Lotus biscuits, have Lotus biscuits, but in a moderate amount, where it's not 2 packs every time you have one. So find these moderate amounts. And I think the key to any type of reverse diet is going to be the mental game that comes from navigating these factors. What do you reckon, Em?
Oh, that was straight in.
What she said.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Yeah. Of course. I mean, I agree, but also the mindset starts when you start the journey, right? And it really, you can almost already tell who is going to struggle reverse dieting by the ones who struggle to actually get into to actually the way of dieting, of actually thinking about food differently. So you can kind of already tell who will struggle afterwards. If someone uses the language saying, oh, I can't wait for this, and like, I'm really missing this, and you're having that sort of language throughout your entire fat loss journey, chances are that you're going to probably overindulge on all the things that you feel like you had to restrict out of your diet. So yeah,
it's that all or nothing mentality that people come in with. That's probably quite dangerous. The ones who, like you mentioned, that firstly the language pattern will always be, I'm going to kill this, and I'm going to be one of your best clients, or I've got 12 weeks to do this, I've got 16 weeks to do this, let's go all in, go give me everything you've got. Those are the dangerous ones to me, in my opinion, because they know they can't sustain that for such a long period of time. So they're the ones who, by week 12, they're already telling you, actually, you know what? I like what Emily just said there. I cannot wait to have this in my pantry next. And then that's when we see those type of like all or nothing mentalities are the same ones that will come back to you a year later and worse than when they first started. Yeah. And that's the dangerous aspect right now. And I literally was speaking to one of my clients who has this mentality. He had like previous coaches, and he had this kind of, he was like, kept having blowouts. And I was like, why do we need to have these blowouts? And also justify them, right? It's like justifying every single time you gain 2 to 4 kilos and you're like, yeah, I'm cool with that. I'm like, hold on, this is the reason why you got out of shape and the reason why you contacted me about this. So it's like, how do we, it's about avoiding that. I think it's going to be important, but you kind of said it correctly there at the start. It's the identity shift. That a lot of clients, I personally think they go through it as the journey evolves rather than just the very beginning. Because in the very beginning, they don't know what's really going on. It's like they see it maybe as another diet more than anything else. And they're like, okay, how do I take it to the next level? What do I do here? And then as the journey evolves, as they get closer towards the time, they're like, actually, you know what? Now I understand what this is all about. It's also how receptive they are towards, you know, the information, because ultimately some people are not, and they're always going to just take that one method and that's it.
But I think it's also the responsibility of us coaches to pre-frame it as this is not just a diet fad. It could be, if you have the all or nothing approach and you think after 12 weeks you're just going to fuck off and do your thing, like, yeah, it becomes the next fad that you join, even though it might be the best fad you've ever joined. But, you know, at the end of it, I think we as coaches has to pre-frame what it means to jump on this, right? But that's the difference of having a coach and someone who's just want your money and give you a plan, right? There's the difference between coaching and having plans. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Like, that's the thing, you know, we spoke about this last week about the industry changing, where it's not necessarily like it's a 12-week thing and people are going in with that mentality, because we know it's not now, because it's the after effects. And we're going to obviously discuss that today on our pod as well about, you know, the golden question, which is how do you stay in shape forever and how do you like maintain that? But I know, Nathan, you wanted to say something as well, because you wanted to obviously chip in there.
Yeah, someone's just given us some feedback and saying that there's an echo, and so can turn your IGs down if there is any.
They're completely down, my friend.
Mine is also completely down.
Technical issue.
We'll just sign off.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think for me, like what Em said there was huge, and like you can almost tell, you can not almost tell, you can tell who's going to sustain this or not, and the biggest thing out of all of that is going to be the people that say, oh, I'm going to dedicate, I'm going to, you know, I've got a good 12-week block here to kind of give it everything that I've got. It's like, no, you're missing the fucking point. Life is meant to happen and you're meant to deal around it. You're not meant to move life around and then be like, oh, this is a perfect 12-week block or a perfect 16 weeks. No, your shit stinks as much as mine does. And that's my favorite term now, isn't it? But your life is going to, I've never had anybody ever have a 16-week block where it's all been sunshine and roses. Like the amount of people that have, like, sorry to break it to you, but deaths in their family, financial issues, job insecurities, relationship issues. Like 60 weeks is a long time not to get, you know, say something wrong to your other half. Like you're gonna do that, right? At some point, you're not gonna cook the dinner the way that you should do, or you're not gonna say the right thing sometimes, and that is gonna create this not perfect world that you're living in. And those people that are trying to make it a perfect world actually then don't deal with the real world well. And that's the these are the people that will come into the reverse diet, hit one too many self-fulfilling prophecies after they've done the diet and be like, I'm going to just eat this and this and this and it's okay. And then when they get hit the fuck it button, then they find it very, very difficult to hold that down, because they've created this perfect world scenario that what they're doing right now only works in a perfect world, and they haven't got ability to actually be like a. Do you remember the rulers at school? The ones that are anti-shatterproof. It's like they're straight and they're stiff, but they're also bendy at the same time. That's what your life and the adaptability that you should have as an individual. Like, it does hurt if I've had a shit week, or it does hurt if I've had something horrible happen this week or this day. But what's your alternative to making it work? Just packing and throw your toys out your pram. It's like, that's so childish behavior. And also almost we all act out our therapy childish behaviors at some point, but you've got to take the rough with the smooth and actually be that ruler. Like sometimes you got to be straight, but also sometimes you've got to allow the bend. Yeah, literally.
100%. I think both of you struck gold with that, which is the whole element of people wanting to, you know, number one, it's also the whole quick fix thing, which is kind of getting eliminated now by people. It's very rare. Like the consults I've done so far, I only had one person say that to me. We're like, oh, actually, I was looking for a quick fix. It's the first time I've heard that in a very long time, right? And I was just like, it took me back, because you're on a Zoom call with them and you're talking and you're like, whoa. And at least you're honest, which I quite like, because you're not like, yeah, you know what, I get this, get a bit. It's like dead honest about it and said, look, I'm after a quick fix, etc., etc. I'm like, look, this ain't going to be it. Like, you know, if you're after a quick fix, then try out like a magazine diet, but just don't. Because ultimately you're gonna be worse for wear in like 6 months time, or potentially even, you know, for the rest of your life, because sometimes recovery is never there. Like the amount of people I've seen, you know, they've suffered from diets like over like a period of time. Like I've mentioned a lady who's done like 15 weeks of dieting, not 15 years of dieting, like on and off, which is insane to me. When you think about it, a guy I spoke to did like 10 years on and off of dieting, like since 2010. I'm like, I was doing GCSEs then, which is insane, right?
Sorry, that's fucking hilarious.
You know, you've been dieting on and off since I've been doing GCSEs. So for me, it's like one of those situations where we are kind of eliminating that, and we are now taking it to the next level, which I think is quite cool. Let's actually dive deep into the biggest question, I think, for the podcast today, which is like, how do we stay in shape forever? You know, some people have different goals. You know, the goal would be like, I want to muscle build, etc. But let's say someone who's dropped 25 plus kilos, never wants to go back to that scale weight ever again. And yeah, that's the biggest question right there, which is like, how do we maintain your body weight for the rest of your life, or like a certain threshold, right? It could be, you know, within plus or minus 5 kilos. Let's go with M. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you just said kind of what I wanted to go there. You have to kind of allow it to be this kind of gray zone of, this doesn't mean I'm out of shape. This just means that this is life happening. You know, Christmas, we assume most people are going to put on a kilo, and that's completely fine, knowing that, you know, come January we lose it again. And so I think that's the big thing, is the mindset of, just because I hit my ultimate lowest weight, that is not me being in shape. I was in shape probably a couple of kilos before that, and therefore allow that to be the case. But then, as we know, if the goal is, hey, I actually want to put on some more muscle, we have to then just accept the journey of muscle building, going, right, I know that I'm going to put on weight as I go, partly because muscle weighs and fat weighs. So you have to put on weight when you're trying to build muscle, especially when you've done the full prep and you're like the leanest you've ever been. Like, yeah, of course you're going to put on weight. If you are a big person and you get into training, yeah, you can put on muscle mass and lose body fat at the same time. But once you've done all of the fat loss, well, there's only really one way you're going to go on the scale, which is up.
Yeah.
So I think 100%. Being okay with that and understand that it's a necessity if you're wanting to change over time. Like, I look at myself and I compare myself to say 6 years ago, and I am about 3 kilos heavier than I was then, but I also look about the same as my leanness, which means that I am heavier technically, but I am the same leanness, so my shape is still better. But my scale, so we have to look at the scale as just feedback and not be like obsessed about the scale either, right? And go, actually, what do I see in the mirror? And then do I take other measurements? Because measurements shows you what's going on. It doesn't tell you exactly what's going on, but it tells you that something is going on.
Yeah, no, 100%. I love that. And I think there's something that I identify in this whole thing. There's that one thing that you mentioned there, which is that the only way is up, which is true. And realistically, from the research and from like the techie background, if you gain 10% of your body weight back after losing 25 kilos, that's a fucking good job. That's a really good job. If you only gain 10% back after losing 25 kilos, you've done exceptionally well. That is the standards you're working with, not the standards that are in your noggin and saying like, I've lost 25 kilos, I should be able to keep all 25 kilos off. It's like, no. You're paying dues still, my friend, of the years that you gained all that weight. Like that, you've still got a way to go to be able to hold that weight down. You know, for me personally, and with autonomy, we use 4 kilos. You should be able to stay within 0 to 4 kilos for most people, unless you've got really, really lean, but that's not the really people that we're working with. But generally, people should be able to stay within the 4 kilo ranger, which is for most people going to be that 10% model. And then I think the next thing out of that is to ensure that you're not part of this diet culture. And the diet culture is that if I'm leaner, I am more valuable, I'm better, and I am, if I gain 2 kilos and my body fat is different, then therefore I'm worth less, I'm attractive less, I'm valuable less in the conversation, I'm less confident. The reality is, body fat doesn't change your confidence. It's the actions of your process, like feeling like coming through on your word is one of the biggest ways to create motivation. Or saying you're going to do something and have intentions is another way to create motivation and create confidence. Whether you fit into your genes or not is just a reminder of all the times that you fucked up, as opposed to you being reminded the genes. You know, whether you're a size 10 or a size 12, it's not in that moment you're like, oh yeah, shit, I'm not fitting into these now. But your brain isn't thinking that, oh yeah, now I'm not a 12. It's thinking, oh, if I would have said yes or no to this, or I would have managed this in the last week, or if I would have done that extra cardio, that's what your brain's thinking. Your brain's thinking, fuck, if I would have dieted, it would have been better. And I think not getting caught up in that dieting mindset, which is where everything is better when you're dieting, is shit. Is where you move out of. But it comes at the cost of you holding firm, and that's why coaching is really important during this process, because ultimately you can't do it on your own, otherwise you'd be knee-jerking back into a diet left, right and center when you gained a kilo. And that's why yo-yo dieting happens, even in a positive manner, right, where people don't completely fuck it, where they don't go, oh, I've just gained 3 kilos, I'm going to go back into a diet. Even if they've just gone up on fluctuations and they've not had a massive poo yet, they're thinking, oh, I need to go on the diet to get that 0.5 off that I've gained. It's like, that's diet culture for you. And it's something that we navigate through, where you think and you feel like you should diet to get back to that optimal place. But actually the reality is there is no optimal place, and there is just a feeling of you trying to chase this diet culture that has been ingrained in you, intervened in your environment, in your society, and the people that are around you. It's like, it's way, way beyond just whether you can, whether you should or not, should or should not lose weight.
Yeah, the one thing you said about the diet culture, you know, the whole, like, if weights fluctuated, right, and you're like, I'm up I'm up a kilo, and then suddenly you're like, oh, let me go on a deficit right now. It's going to be vicious, because that's something that, you know, especially I've seen that probably without coaches, and you're right there, because you're not actually having another opinion. You're just going by what you think is right, and that's not obviously necessarily right. And then you're always going to go back up and down, and you're never going to progress. Like, we were having this conversation with the big man yesterday, Big Man Muller, about this conversation, right? About this whole, you know, people go through this like dieting cycle, and then they get rid of their coach, and then they're like, oh yeah, this is what's going on in this current situation as well. So we've seen it quite often. What about people who go through their first diet and they get very lean? Do you ever find them like they just stay there forever, or is it, you feel like I've always noticed them, they go through a period of like, they want to build muscle mass, because they're like, I've got quite lean. And I think we're all good experiences of this as well. Like, I don't think we ever got abs for the first time. We're like, yeah, I'm now done for life now. Like, let me put my chair up and I'm like, I'm good to go. Right. I think it's always the case of like, they go through that period of, okay, I'm going to go muscle build. I'm going to try and spend like 12 to 18 months in this period, because like, let's get it right. Most people are not happy with their first physique transformations ever. There's a few that obviously will be like mostly gem pop because they're where they got to and where they were, but they always get to the stage of like, okay, I need to get better than this next time. Like, I started my journey just wanting abs like Floyd Mayweather, and here I am 10 years later.
Looking for abs. No, just kidding.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, that's one of those situations, right? We're like all trying to get better and better. And it's like, I went from abs to like, oh yeah, I want to bring up my delts. Like, 10 years ago, I wouldn't care less about my delts. But it's just like, it's one of those situations where we try and then get into improvement culture, which is probably another aspect to staying in shape, right? Like, if you think about it all together as well, it's like, how do you stay in shape? It's like constant improvement, which is, if you have that mentality, which we can also get into, like, if you're an open-minded person or a closed-minded person or narrow-minded, then this also, you know, comes in quite nicely into whether you'll stay in shape or not.
So it's that falling into that preface, which let's say, for example, you made the transition pretty well, but if you would have said to yourself 10 years ago, I'll be happy when I have Floyd Mayweather's abs, that's a false narrative, because if anyone, and just those people that have never been in shape, the worst thing that you can do for getting in shape long term is get in shape, because it breaks the pedestal of your shit. Like, your shit stinks when you get your body weight to the where you want it to be, or where you've told yourself, if I lose 10 kilos, I'm going to be liked more, I'm going to be more confident, I'm going to act better in social situations, I'm going to have a better relationship, I'm going to be, able to eat what I want, I'll be happy when is one of the most negative connotations that you can have. And equally, it never happens. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You can never be there. And that's why you should always have that improvement culture and have that level of practice, and always embracing the concept of the process, as opposed to the end goal of I will be happy when, because that never, ever, ever happens. You could have the thing that drives you the most happiness. I got a dog, which was the most important, like for me, it was the most vulnerable, but also the most important things in my life that I always wanted since I was younger. And when I thought to myself, when I get a dog, I'll be happy, content, and I'll be able to be absolutely great. I got the dog, and it was a fucking shit show.
Sold out.
Like, and Luna was amazing, and she's. I hope she's still fine, but it was the pedestal that everyone feels when they get to 10 kilos or they get 15 kilos, and they think they're going to be happy when, and they're not. And then that.
No, I was going to say, that's the thing, is the pushing away the responsibility of actually choosing to be happy now and taking measures to being happy now. Like, the weight is not solving the problem. It's like having that partner is not going to solve the problem. We're not finding solutions elsewhere other than inside. And those are the people, and if we go back to like what it takes is to not expect yourself to be any happier, regardless if you're fat or skinny. Like, that expectation needs to go. Of course, you can be happier because you're healthier. And when we're healthier, we have better hormone panel, we have better like dopamines and serotonin, like we probably have more functioning body overall. So yeah, there will be a level of more happiness because the body is more relaxed. But the emotional happiness doesn't just show up at a certain body fat percentage or scale weight. And yeah. And is that, do I take that and like the belief system and setting myself up for failure long term because I now got to my ideal physique and I realized that this did not solve my problem. So then what is the point? Let me go and eat that chocolate cake again and drink that liter of wine every night because I realized I wasn't any happier. So that is the problem, the expectation of something solving an emotional problem, when that's not what we're doing here. We're solving health and fitness problems and actually making people feel at home in the body that they have. So of course it can correlate with feeling more content with yourself. If you feel like you're confident in wearing whatever clothes, that if you're representing yourself in the way that you feel at home, of course it's going to feel good. But again, the happiness equation, like it's a little bit of a like, sorry, that's not going to help you.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it, where then people would be like, oh, well, why diet then? And it's like, well, there's so many benefits to being in better shape, like you mentioned, that there almost needs to be, and probably this comes back to also people staying in shape long term, there needs to be a reason why and a purpose to that day. So there's a reason why you're looking after your nutrition outside of just wanting to look a bit better. Like, if you break it down that far, I think those people that will break it down that far will never have an issue with their weight maintenance, at least for the long term. And they'll fluctuate a little bit based on their knowledge, their tactics, and their strategy. And that's practice, that's okay. But if you acknowledge that I'm doing my nutrition to better X, Y, and Z, as opposed to just to look less shit, it goes further. You do it for more often, you do it for longer, you do it and you pick it back up even if you lose it a day, because you know it's important to the way that you. And it's easy to represent. I just did another podcast, but talking about it's easy for entrepreneurs, and when you're seeing an entrepreneur journey, it's really easy for them to navigate this because they have high importance on them being the caregiver of everything that goes into that business. So imagine, it's really easy for entrepreneurs to gauge onto training and nutrition, because if they train better, and they get that positive benefit of training, high productive, structure, routine, feeling better, less days off, less sickness, looking better, more confident for sales and all that type of stuff, that makes their business thrive more. And that's what then drives them forwards to make those decisions, to make their food decisions better, to not be up until 2 a.m. in the morning every single day, to monitor their sleep, to get a routine, to get a structure, to say no to dickheads, and to do all of these things that will allow you to make your business better, right? And for entrepreneurs, that they get it like that. Okay, if you eat like a dickhead, you get like a dickhead, like I said at the beginning. So these entrepreneurs are like, okay, well, I'm not going to eat like that because, for the most part, because of X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to train that. I'm not going to not train and be active because of X, Y, and Z. Whereas people that work for someone else, or they don't know their purpose, they don't know their mission, these are the people that are always in those yo-yo diets and cycles, or the mums that have had 2 kids that have lost their purpose because they had to give up their job to have these 2 kids, and now their kids are grown up enough to not need the mum as much as they did because they're in kindergarten, in nursery. I've got the basketball jersey on, back on American terminology, but they're back in the nursery, which means that they need them less, which means them feel, that makes the mum feel like they're not needed, and then they don't have a mission, they don't go back to work. You know, that's the uncertainty of their mission and drive and purpose, and that creates that cycle of that they don't know why they're doing nutrition, they don't know why they're doing their training, they don't know why they're looking after themselves, because they don't know. You
also hit the nail on the head, because entrepreneurs start to link things, right? And I think most people generally don't. Like, think about it. A lot of people, why they want to get in shape? It's like a holiday coming up, or I just want to lose a couple of kilos because of this. Entrepreneurs start to, then initially they may also do the same thing, but as the process goes on, they start to realize they look at their lives and they're like, you just said, you know, let's get an entrepreneur who's got sales every single day and he's trying to close down, he's trying to make 10K a day, right? He goes, if I feel good and I feel good within myself, and that's probably linked in with my training, right? He's trained for the first time. He's like, wow, actually, I feel really good about this. He's closed a day of like making 10K. He's suddenly going to be like, this is the reason why, if he's never done that before, right? Whereas most people, they don't think about it that way. They don't think about like, let me link this in together. Now, a lot of people now start to kind of link in their family, and they start to think, yeah, I'm doing this for my kids. But in reality, sometimes I've questioned parents who said, are you actually doing this for your kids? Really? Like, be honest, because you've not lost a kilo so far. And you mentioned you're doing it to a kid.
You want to be perceived like you're doing it for your kids, but you're still knocking back chocolate bars after they go to bed.
Yeah, exactly. So
from their cupboard as well.
Yeah, bruh, if you're stealing your kids' food, don't be one of those guys.
Yeah, you're a demon if you're stealing your kids' food. And they're wondering, where's my chocolate every single week? But I think it's a case of like, even if you're a parent right now, like, yeah, link it in, but don't make it a fake perceived like why, for example. I think that's one thing that you start to figure out. Okay, I'm doing it for my kids, great. You know, have a bigger purpose potentially as to why you're really doing this. So what Nathan mentioned. But yeah, I think you're 100% right about the entrepreneurs. Like, I've seen entrepreneurs really, really, really get into like with training and nutrition, and then they always stay in shape. You know, they rarely kind of pop out of it because they realize, I'm going to link it into this because this is essentially making me money, but at the same time, I also feel good about it. And it's interesting because normally they get out of shape quite quickly, and then it goes the opposite direction.
Yeah, I literally forgot what I was going to say here, but but that is the thing. It's the mindset. But I think if you're an entrepreneur as well, you are already looking for more, right? You have to connect. You have to find new answers. You have to stretch yourself every day to essentially expand your business, right? To make it either grow or stay afloat. Like, you have to constantly be proactive, and it's the proactivity, right? So yeah, and I think the issue is that a lot of people also think, well, when I do this, I should have that. It's like cause and effect, right? If I train today, I should look good tomorrow. And not seeing that it is, as you say, it's like a link. It's like a network of things that you do that ultimately creates that lifestyle. It's like, you can't just nail one thing. You need to look at all of the things. And especially, I guess, if we go back into a transformation journey, you can't just train. You can't, and you can't just drink water. Like, you have to look at all the aspects, and then, of course, as we say, like, don't set yourself up for failure because you have a perfectionist mindset, but understand that everything that you do right, and if more things are going towards progress, you will move towards progress, even if it's slower or faster. So yeah.
I think fitness is the only area where like you can try and chase perfection, but it will never ever happen.
I pre-frame failure the first time. I'm like, look, you're going to fail, especially this first week. I don't expect you to be perfect. And if you are, you were lucky. Like, don't take it personal. If you're good, don't take it personal. If you're bad, don't take it personal. Just do the best you can to follow what we say. That's it.
Yeah,
practice. All you have is practice. Doesn't matter whether you're good, bad, or shit, or you've had a good week, bad week, or it is gone absolutely terrible for you, or you feel like you've got no hope. What is the alternative to practice? Sit there and get nothing? That practice. That's it.
Yeah, get your reps in.
Simple yeah, literally. I think to go down a separate avenue. So like, okay, cool, you got the mindset. Okay, we get it. We need the linking. We need the longer purpose, the bigger things, the reasons why we do these things. That's kind of going to be why you stick to the reverse. That's why you're going to make a lifestyle out of it. But what do you reckon the things that the people need to learn that is different to the diet during the reverse or the long-term, let's call it the long-term weight maintenance, that you isn't common, or it isn't something that people are thinking that they need to do?
The first thing I'd say is don't think of this as a diet, what you're doing at the start, right? A lot of them, like if you start already saying I'm on a diet, like you've already said it to yourself, it's a short-term thing, right? Rather than coming in and saying, oh, this is for me as a lifestyle change, and this is for me, I want to do this long-term. Like the ones who, for example, let's go with like oats, whey, and porridge, right? For example, the ones who like embrace that and then they have it for the rest, like, you know, even post, you know, let's say their transformation phase and they go through that next phase, they continuously have that, are the ones who can, you know, embrace the next steps. So I think for me it would be like the first step is like not saying, oh, I'm on a diet right now, I'm just doing this program and that's it. You make it sound like it's Weight Watchers. In reality, it's completely the opposite. It's something that you want to stick for the rest of your life. So that's probably the first step I would say in the very beginning.
I think also, and this, I guess it's going to sound a bit tough lovey, but
go on.
But also, like, let's just stop feeling sorry for ourselves, and let's like stop justifying, oh, I've been a good girl now, so I really deserve this. Like, why do you deserve it?
Yeah.
Like stop justifying your wants and embody the fact that you have to make a choice always, but the choice is always yours. And the same goes then, the choice of going on this lifestyle change, it is yours to take. The choice to break that lifestyle change is also yours to take. And if we can just take that responsibility and go, I choose this, regardless of what we do, then we will more likely have the awareness of making better choices. But when we put the blame and put the justifications as if, well, I did this, so I deserve, or like we're not taking that responsibility. And I get this goes well beyond just lifestyle diet. Like this goes to life as a whole, right? It's like, oh, I had 5 sales this week, I deserve to do this. You know, like, no, you had 5 sales, then you can choose to do something else. You don't justify just because. Like, I just think that if we can stop justifying, we just stop making these poor decisions from emotion, because it is essentially, hey, I want to celebrate, or hey, I want to make myself feel better.
Yeah, it's it comes from the nature of that people don't like to go this or that. They want to kind of keep their options open so that they don't have it. They're not making choices. And with choice and going down to one singularity of choice, you actually have to then say what you don't want. You then have to say what you do want. You also have to take responsibility for whether it works or it doesn't work. And then you have to then ultimately shield and take ownership of that decision, which is very difficult. But I tell you what, is that the moments that you do that is the moments that were that guilt on a Sunday when you've eaten too much on Saturday, it goes away because you took it. Like, you took the ownership, and whether you believe it or not, if you take it away and strip it back to what it is, you made a decision, and if you didn't know the ramifications or the cost of benefits of something, then that's your own bad. Learn about that and learn through coaching what that means. And then after you know about the cost and the benefits, or the cost and the wins, then you know if to make that decision again. But only when you take that ownership and say, I made this decision and I want to embrace it, do you really then actually then able to learn from it. Ultimately, if you're going to cast your blame onto something else, ultimately it's a blame game. I feel like this, so I'm going to do this. Shut up, bro. Like, just have that thing of, yeah, it's really easy, and it's really it takes away from the heartache or the headspace of what you're feeling right now if you do that. But know that the reason why you've got the headache and the heartache or whatever the feeling is that you're trying to move away from is because you're not actually taking the ownership to embrace whatever that feeling is. And you need that to move forward, to not let it happen over and over and over again.
That's a deep one, isn't it?
Yeah. But on a really easy note, I think that a lot of people should do the following. Learn about food inclusivity so that they don't have any food that they fearful good or bad of. I feel like you should know how to include food into your food routine and be able to have like the good balance of 80-20, be able to have a solution to your lifestyle. So whether that's the more food at the weekends, or how to have a takeaway, or you just like consistency every single day, how to have food with your fellow housemates, or how to have dinners with your family. All of these variables should be looked at as something that you should work towards to include. Like for the most part, like people not tracking and people like moving away from that accuracy is one which you need to learn. And I think it doesn't happen overnight. And ultimately accuracy will lead down to either body fat gain or body fat loss, and that's totally normal. But over time, these things are something that you need to have from a food inclusivity standpoint. Identify, again, make that choice what you want to have. Like I may keep consistent 5 days of the week, then I'm going to the Cheesecake Factory on the Saturday and Sunday if I'm not dieting, or I'm going for dinner or whatever it is and having a nice burger. And that's the way I'll do stuff. And most clients are very, very similar. Monday to Friday, routine structured, some normal choices, and then Saturday and Sunday, a little cheeky bit of variety. As well as that, they need to go to a social event. They need to go to social events and act according to the way that they want to. If they want to be someone that drinks 6 to 7 pints, cool. Be that person that drinks 6 to 7 pints. But then you have to say no at number 8, and you have to say no at the doner kebab afterwards, and learn what it's like to write something down, set it as a task, and then do it. Because it's really easy, coming from a guy that hates social scenarios and likes to drink when he gets a bit nervous, is that it's really easy to say no to when you're dieting to alcohol. And it's really easy to just be like, no, I'm dieting is fine, no Diet Coke, and once, even people don't even get that, but if you can get to that point, that's great. But then when you're put in the wild and you can have a drink and there's no reason why you can't, that shows your true colors, and it shows where the work really, really needs to happen. So if you can do those 2 things, I don't think you have a problem at all with managing your body weight from a food and alcohol perspective, either socially, culturally, environmentally, family, home life. You then master those 2 basics, which is not even basic at all. It's the whole fucking job lot. When you manage those 2, everything's good.
Yeah. So have the slice, but don't have the whole cake, basically.
Always.
I mean, that's the key when it comes down to like staying in shape, in my opinion. But I think we'll wrap it there. We'll be back next week, unless you got any final words.
No, but it's hard to not eat the whole cake sometimes, right?
Depends.
But it's learning. Like, and I'm the kind of girl who would buy a 4-pack of Snickers on my way home from Tesco's, and I would be like, yeah, this will last me for 4 days, and I ate 4 of them before I even hit home. Like, that was me constantly. So I had to learn that, okay, I can't buy 4 Snickers. And then eventually I just didn't buy Snickers at all, because that was the salvation of my problem. But yeah, I also just learn your triggers. That's a huge one. Learn your triggers. If you understand your triggers, what makes you want to go wild, you can put measures in place to either avoid it completely or have a game plan that allows you to have some leeway to enjoy whatever is and still maintain or lose if that is the goal.
Yeah, the self-awareness comes in quite a lot as the journey evolves. So you start to kind of figure out like, oh wow, actually, you know what, peanut butter is really messing me up now. I am like doing this with this food or whatever. So yeah, I think it's that, let the journey evolve with yourself, but also like what Em just said there, find out what your triggers are. And then, either you eliminate them or you just include them. Some people just include them, right? A lot of people are like scared of like, oh, are you serious? I can have chocolate. one of my clients was like, "Are you serious? I can have chocolate in my plan." I was like, "Yeah, why not? Like, I'd rather you just include it and like hide away from it, and then you know you don't include it." And they said you just give power away, basically. Like it's living rent free in your head, right? And I hate anything that lives rent free in your head. So basically, focus on what Nathan said, is that inclusivity is going to be key. And I think that's huge for gen population, in my opinion. I think even people prep will have this, but generally the ones who are not going to be like, I want to get like diced. Most people don't want to get diced anyway. It's over time, but yeah, we'll be back next week. I believe Nathan will talk about protein in Asians.
About what?
Protein and Asians. We had a little chat yesterday about it.
Oh yeah, that'd be a great one.
Yeah, this will go a big episode. I think a lot of Asians would love this one. So we'll be back next week. In the meantime, subscribe, share this with your friends and family, and peace out.